Hello everybody and welcome to Back Issues. I'm Sal.
And I'm Ben.
Today, in honor of our 104th episode, which is technically 2 full years worth of Back Issues, we're talking about one chapter from the Crossover Classics collection. This is the first time Marvel and DC crossed over universes and characters.
Wow.
And so I thought, like a storybook, I'm going to pick one chapter, because this collects like 4 chapters.
Do they release these all at the same time?
No, they came one after the other.
Okay.
Like, over the years.
Okay.
I think in, like, 1976 or whatever, the first one came out, which was Superman versus Spider-Man, and it was called Superman versus Spider-Man. And the idea was, Marvel and DC didn't do anything together before. Like, they knew each other, they were based out of the same city, and I think the idea was that one time, like, some guy came to Stan Lee, and then DC publisher Carmine Infantino.
I was waiting for Falcone.
Yeah, I know. No. I love the names of these guys. Carmine Infantino and Stan Lee were at a party somewhere, and somebody suggested, hey, why don't you take your 2 most popular characters and make a movie about them fighting?
A movie?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And Stan was like, well, my Spider-Man character is right now involved in a series of TV movies that are sure to go far. And it's fucking horrible. They're horrible.
I've never even heard of
Oh
that.
my god.
The thing.
They're live-action Spider-Man, like, mini-movies.
I want to see Christopher Reeve's Superman talking to Spider-Man. I mean, I can't now.
Yeah, no,
Clearly.
but that would be cool. Like, I mean, you could watch a fan trailer where they did that. There's like a million of those.
Yeah, fan trailers
People,
are
like,
cool.
did fan cuts. They've done, like, Chris Reeve Superman fighting Michael Keaton Batman. They've, like, recut the Batman vs. Superman trailer with those characters, and you're like, okay.
I want to see that now.
Yeah. I would 1990 do that. Yeah. Okay, you people with time travel, that's what you should get on. Fuck Kennedy or Hitler. You go back and you
No,
make that
that's the
happen.
thing. We need these things to happen because that's how history
Yeah, exactly.
went.
Those are important. You can't change that.
No,
You
it's
can
true.
change.
Yeah,
Unless-
that doesn't really affect anything.
Unless they were already changed.
Yeah, what if they were garbage? And they were like, don't. Then how did we get Batman and Robin? What the crap? Anyway.
Yeah, fix that, time travelers.
So they were busy making movies, and so they're like, I have an idea. How about a comic book? We publish those. Why don't we make a comic book where they cross
we can
over?
do that very easily and cheaply.
Yeah, much easier than a movie.
Who
Yeah.
publishes it, though?
That's an interesting question. They both like share the duties. The question they used one of their printers and like they split the costs and stuff. But like it was a Marvel DC co-production, but not the first one, by the way. They had teamed up one other time, and it was for the MGM Wizard of Oz comic book adaptation of the movie. Marvel and DC.
Why did they team up?
Who the fuck knows?
Because no one of them could get the rights?
Right? Oh, yeah, we gotta get in on this Wizard of Oz shit that came out 50 years ago! Like, I don't know.
It'll be huge!
Yeah, listen, the resurgence of Wizard of Oz is gonna hit, and when it does, you and me, we're gonna be on the ground floor. I don't know. But in any case, Stan Lee and Carmine Infantino were like, let's do this. And so they were like, let's take our most popular characters, Spider-Man and Superman, have them fight, team up, and then...
Yeah. Even though they can't possibly fight.
Nope.
Or Spider-Man would be vaporized or torn asunder in a second.
But that's the thing, like, that's what blows my mind. I remember when, like, I was first getting into comics, and they're like, oh, well, if you want to see the first crossover, it's Spider-Man versus Superman. And I'm like, what?
I understand you put the word versus in there, but clearly that's not the case.
Yeah, and, like, I was a hardcore Spider-Man fan. I'm like, there's no fucking way. Not only that, but, like... Why them? Like, why not Batman versus Spider-Man? Or why not Superman versus, I don't know, Thor or Captain America or something? But no, those were the most popular characters at the time.
Right.
And it was
literally
also...
they're just the most popular.
Just the most popular. I remember they were, like, worried that they both had the same color costumes, and so they had to...
And
Yeah,
the
that's
same
the
color
problem.
villains?
Yeah,
The
well,
problem
no,
is the color
I'm sorry, no,
schemes are
Lex-
too close.
Lex
Not
didn't have a
that
power
it's
suit at that
totally
point.
Lex had a power...
unbelievable.
Oh, no, Lex definitely had a power suit at that time. Like, the fact is, it's 1976, it's pre-Crisis, it's pre-billionaire industrialist Luthor. So this
wow.
Luthor is like a mad scientist, evil genius, like villain of the week. He's still the arch nemesis of Superman, but he sucks. He's got doomsday plans. He's got giant robots. And, like, this is the book where you're like, fuck, this is awesome. And you think to yourself, like, today in 2016, people are like, how do you make Superman relevant? It's like, well, how about you fucking try writing him interestingly? Back then, I get why people thought Superman was boring. Because at this time, they got Jerry Conway to write it because Jerry Conway had written Spider-Man and Superman books. So they're like, we'll get Jerry, he's written both characters, he gets both characters. And that's true and fair, and Jerry Conway's portrayal of Superman in this is, Superman doesn't save the day immediately. His conflict, Superman's obstacle, is that he doesn't know all the details of the nefarious plot yet. If he had them, he would defeat the villain. That's like the only obstacle that Superman has. That's his pathos.
He hasn't figured out what to do yet.
Yeah, his problem is he doesn't know the future. That is the only thing that gets in Superman's fucking way in this fucking story. Is Superman, and he is such a douche. Like, 1976 Spider-Man, he is Spider-Man. He's a kid. Gwen's dead. The Green Goblin's dead, which is why he's not the villain in this. We gotta get the top villains. And so since Green Goblin's dead, and he's never coming back, at this point, dead was dead at Marvel, they went to the next best guy, which was Dr. Octopus. And they're both scientists.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of funny if they had done Green Goblin and Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor hadn't yet become a billionaire industrialist, but Green Goblin already was one. And so would have, and they had the same color schemes. No, he's dead.
Well, that would have been a problem.
That would have been, it would have confused everybody. So they did this crossover where they created the trope that everybody knows, which is
they invented it right here.
This is it. This is the ground floor for every superhero crossover between companies ever, which was the heroes meet, they have a misunderstanding, they fight to a standstill, and then they team up to battle mutual villains who got along perfectly well before the problem started.
So we can blame Jerry.
Yes. Well, we can blame a lot of people. I mean, look, you can't really judge it too harshly. And the reason for that is because they had no basis for comparison.
Yeah.
They had no idea what to do. And they were just so genuinely excited to do it. This was originally, when in the original format that it was presented, in the thing, they were just so excited to be like, look at this! Spider-Man! It's on the same fucking page! That's a big fucking deal. And even as a kid in the 80s, I was like, this is a big deal!
Oh, question.
Yeah.
What city does this take place in?
It takes in both cities. In this universe, in this story, there's no universe bullshit. They just never ran into each other.
It's just Earth.
It's just Earth.
Okay.
Metropolis is in, and New York is over there.
And New York's in New York. And Metropolis is in some state.
Yeah. And they never make any reference to, how they never met before or anything.
It sounded like you said Metropolis is in Canada.
Sure, maybe
I was
it is. I don't
I'm
know.
like, that would be really funny. Because who the fuck goes to Canada?
Right.
Kidding.
Originally, it was presented by Carmine Infantino and Stan Lee. But then in the later reprints, they said edited by. But I loved it because they were just like, ta-da! Like, look what we did! So, of course, it was written by Jerry Conway, who, by the way, wrote the fucking Death of Gwen Stacy. So this dude knows how to write fucking Spider-Man shit.
Nice.
And drawn by Ross Andrew, but inked by Dick Giordano, who had inked a bunch of amazing things. And did a lot of cleanups and stuff. He's a great fucking creator. But Dick Giordano is also, notably, Neil Adams's inker. Ross Andrew drew this, and he does a respectable job.
Not bad.
And when they sent the pages to Giordano to be inked, naturally they would come across Neil Adams' desk, and Neil was like, that Superman looks kind of shitty. And then he would erase it and then draw his own Superman.
Oh,
so
shit.
It wasn't revealed until well after the fact, but the reason why the book looks half as good as it does is because Neil fucking Adams drew most of the Superman stuff.
That's cool. And I guess he just did that for free?
I assumed
supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, because what are you doing, Neil?
No, he padded his checks.
Yeah. Also, why wouldn't you just call them and say, why didn't you just ask me to do it? And I think the idea
he
was...
only wants to draw Superman.
I think the idea was that Ross had drawn both characters. And so they're like, oh, he'll do a great job.
Right.
And it's true, he did do both
And then we only have to
characters.
write one paycheck.
Yeah.
And we don't want to have two people writing on the same. It'll get confusing.
Yeah. This book has prologues and chapters... And
was this one issue or is it multiple issues?
No, it's one full issue.
Okay.
But with multiple chapters in it.
Okay.
So was each chapter its own little book that came out
like this is the first chapter, And then this is chapter 2, and it's
So
like,
this was like an extra long book. When it was published, you got a thick...
you got like an actual kind of graphic novel.
That's cool.
Okay, cool. Better way to read it.
Yeah.
Did people freak out? Was this
I think
like
they did.
an event?
It wasn't.
I mean, you weren't alive.
No, I wasn't alive in
I don't know why I'm
1976.
asking you,
Yeah,
but-
like, well, let me tell you, because I don't fucking know. But like, yeah, my only exposure to this was this volume, which I never had, and then. Because I'm a comic book YouTuber now, I just fucking bought it. I'm like, I'm gonna buy this, and then I'm gonna love it. And some of it I really enjoy, and some of it I'm like. So let's get into the nitty gritty of this crossover. Superman battles Lex Luthor, who is piloting a giant robot and threatening to destroy the city, and. Then they go to the ocean because they're Superman's like, oh, I gotta get you away from the city. And Lex is like, yeah, I'm piloting my robot, which is powered by levers and dials. And it's just like, what the fuck? It's 1976. Spider-Man's girlfriend, he killed her with his webbing. Meanwhile, Superman's fighting automatons with levers and lasers. But my point is, I get why people were like, Superman is fucking boring. Because you know what he is in this? Really boring. It's
How can you call him that? He's battling a giant robot.
Look at this!
That's super cool.
Like, look at this! Look at these action
Why
figures
does this battle
fighting!
even is doesn't he just beat this robot like immediately? Is this robot made of some metal that he can't hurt?
Not really! No, it's not like there's no kryptonite or anything. He's legitimately just like, oh! And I think it's because the robot's in the middle of the city.
Right. So
And he's like, I can't just knock it over or hit a building. And so he's like, I gotta roll with the punches. Because Superman is basically like, throughout the whole book, he's like, okay, chum, I'm here. Don't worry, I just haven't figured it out yet. But when I do, then I'll save the day. Step aside. Like, he's just such an insufferable, pompous windbag in this whole book. Superman defeats Lex Luthor, but not before Lex launches some other nefarious scheme away. He's like, no, I better launch my other scheme that I keep stored in my first scheme, like Plan B, and get rid of that. And, he fights Superman by, shooting him with red sun radiation, which at this point, red sun radiation would depower Superman.
Yeah.
But if a human were exposed to red sun radiation, it would give them powers like unto Superman.
What?
Why doesn't Luthor
'Cause it's the
kill
opposite.
himself with
That's
red
a great
sun
fucking
radiation?
question. He doesn't do that. No, it needs to be ridiculously circuitous. It can't just be...
I won't stoop to Superman's level.
Yeah, I will defeat him with my vast intellect.
Exactly.
Not with
You know what's smart? Blasting yourself with red sun radiation.
Superman immediately defeats Luthor and then puts him in jail. Spider-Man then has his own adventure where Dr. Octopus and his cronies are robbing some warehouse. Spider-Man tries to defeat Dr. Octopus. He gets his ass kicked. He tries to sell some, photos to the Bugle, which, of course, by Spider-Man standards was, I'll put my SLR in a corner of the warehouse, put it on auto snap, and then try and move the fight in front of the lens. And that's how his whole career is launched, which is why any notable photographer in any comic book where Spider-Man features is like, Parker, I don't know how you have a career. Because your photos are shit.
They're horrible.
You have 1,000 terrible shots, one decent one. If you could just be there and take the... I don't understand why... it's like you're not even there.
Right, you clearly have some kind of special access because you have any pictures at all.
Yeah.
But you couldn't be bothered to
take one.
a good job.
Yeah.
Well, he got it for Christmas, and he never really figured out how the camera works.
Right.
I just kind of do this a whole lot.
try.
It's amazing. They're just looking at the cover of the Daily Bugle, and Spider-Man's looking at it like, oh wow, my automatic camera has been out of synchronization.
Oh no,
the photo looks like crap. Like he didn't know what photos he was
No,
submitting.
he brings...
Did he develop it?
That's Jameson's problem. Peter Parker shows up. He's like, JJ, I got shots of Spider-Man saving the warehouse from Doc Ock. And JJ goes like, Robbie, scrap page 1 and run the best looking shot from this roll. Robbie's like, okay. And the best one is Spider-Man's shoulder. And he's like, da! And Robbie Robertson was just like, okay, Jonah.
I just do what I'm told.
Well, no, he's like, fuck you, Jonah. Don't run your newspaper like that.
Yeah.
And Jonah basically throttles Peter, and then Peter basically complains about how no one appreciates him.
By the way, Peter looks exactly like the cartoon show. Him and Mary Jane and Iceman. Oh, I'm sorry, no, not Mary Jane. What's her face?
Firestar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are they married?
They are dating.
They're dating.
Yeah, because Gwen is dead, so now they could date. But they're not married. They don't get married for another 10 years.
Oh, wow, okay. Did
But,
Gwen just die?
Pretty much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that
He
didn't
moves
take him
fast.
long.
Oh, no. I think it actually takes place somewhere... No, it must be before the Clone Saga. Because, like, he really seals the deal with her after that Clone Saga.
Okay.
In any case, Spider-Man, he's going to go out on a date with Mary Jane, and he's like, oh, and he bitches and moans, and then he sees this blimp in the sky, and he ditches Mary Jane to go fight Dr. Octopus again.
Well, he knows he's on the blimp?
He basically, I think he put a spider tracer on him.
Oh.
So he's like, oh, the way Spider-Man's spider tracer works is it actually works in sync with his spider sense. He like tunes it to be like the same frequency. So when it comes in proximity to him, his spider sense will go off.
Ah. Here's an art question. They're drawing him with these like web, like wing things under his arm.
Yeah.
How like have they always done that?
Since the very beginning, since Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man has had armpit webbing.
Helps him glide.
Yeah.
Does he still have that?
No.
Okay. When did they get rid of that?
They got...
'Cause
artists...
I've never noticed it.
No,
before.
it's funny. Some artists like to draw it, and some don't. McFarlane, I think he drew it sometimes, but for the most part, like, as Spider-Man got more modern, like, I know Bagley did not draw that shit.
Okay.
Like, around the Eric Larson era, they were like, screw that. Like, why? Why does he tell them glide? Which is true. He does use them to glide.
Well, that is a practical reason.
He's like a flying squirrel.
Yeah. Or a spider that uses web to glide, which spiders can do.
Really?
Not under their armpits, though.
No.
Well, no.
Well, they also
between
don't
the
shoot their
legs.
webbings out of their wrists.
They don't technically
either.
have armpits.
It's true. They really don't shoot their webbing at all. For the most
Not
part.
to, like, swing.
Yeah.
In any case, Spider-Man defeats Doc Ock, and then they send Doc Ock to the same prison they sent Les Luthor to, because it's a supervillain prison.
And that's where they would go.
What the crap is Peter Parker wearing here?
He's wearing a little sweater.
What is that pattern?
It's just a pat. I've
He's got
seen
a black shirt.
I
with,
feel like I've seen that sweater before.
Yeah, it's like a
On
ski,
him in
It's a
these
ski sweater.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess.
I have a sweater very similar to that. When they put Doc Ock in prison, they like deactivate his arms.
Okay.
They didn't
So he-
just
That's a good
take them
idea.
off.
No, they're fused to his spine. They can't like they can't rip them out, but they can like turn them off.
Can't they just detach the arm parts from the body part?
They take like no.
Because, like, that seems like it would be the
Well-
easiest fix for Doc Octopus.
Just
like,
Superman comes up with that idea later, but for the most part, they just say like they deactivated my arms, and they don't make any attempt. This is the whole book, by the way. It's just like, and then they do this,
oh, you take it on the cuff.
and then they make no attempt to explain why things happen. So Doc Ock's arms are deactivated, and Lex Luthor and Ock like talk across the cell from each other, like, "Blast that Superman!" Like, "Oh, sounds like you've got a red, white, and blue problem too." So what do you say we team up? And Lex like, "Okie dokie," and then he like sets off some sonic emitter that like knocks everybody out, including Ock. That doesn't knock him out, but like it incapacitates him. He's like, "No, I can't do anything." Lex gets himself out, and then he gets Doc Ock his arms back, or his arms are reinstated, and then
I just flipped the switch in the phone.
yeah, and then he can't reach it,
And no, I'm chubby. I can't.
and then Lex Luthor rides Dr. Octopus to safety. It's one of my favorite images in the book. He just climbs on Doc Ock's back,
He just hops on his fucking
It's a
back.
piggyback.
and then they both like, ah!
He's giving him a fucking piggyback ride. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Every single villain problem would be solved if they were just put in solitary confinement.
Oh yeah. Well, cause you mean
So they couldn't work
they wouldn't
together?
cross
well,
over?
no, because they could still have their like friends or whatever like come get them.
Yeah,
like,
which
if
they
I go in
do.
jail, like you break me out.
Yeah, but they
We're
wouldn't be
on
able
the
to communicate in jail.
Yeah.
No, and they wouldn't be able to like hatch their scheme, which would affect their surroundings if they had no surroundings.
Right.
Then there's like this science expo or this convention of space technology,
Okay.
and
Oh, please tell me the Fantastic Four don't show up.
no one but Spider-Man and Superman show up in this book.
Okay.
Clark Kent and Lois Lane are covering it for the Daily Planet, and Peter Parker's covering it because he likes to go. He just wants to see it.
He's not taking pictures for
He
the
brought his
newspaper?
camera, and like Jonah's there, and Jonah's like, "You should take some pictures," and Peter Parker gives him a real hard time because he's like, "I've never stood up to that old skinflint. I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind," and you're like, "What?"
I'm going to give him a piece of my mind because I want to work?
No, it's more like you're a dick. Like he was just a dick to him earlier in the book. and
Oh,
then-
by throttling him. Well, yeah.
yeah.
But to be fair, I mean, Parker's a tool.
Well, that's debatable. Who cares about all that shit? They mentioned some like stupid satellite which could, if used, alter weather patterns, which I think the idea was that, like, optimistically, it would be able to, like, help stop tornadoes and stuff.
But in the wrong hands.
No, what if? What if it happens in this very story? So then Superman shows up and vaporizes Mary Jane and Lois Lane.
What the fuck? He
What?
just shows up and he just
goes, ha-ha!
for no reason at all.
But because
I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation.
yeah, but and Clark is there, so you know it's not Superman. But Peter Parker sees
Clark is there?
Yeah, Clark is there. He's like, great moons of Krypton. What am I going to do about this? I don't quite know how this is solved yet, but don't worry, I'll solve it because I'm perfect. So there's a cute moment where Parker is running past Clark and he says, like, where's the phone booths? And Clark's like, over there. And Spider-Man's like, okay. And he runs over to them. And it's just a row of phones. Like, there's no booths.
Right.
And he's like, oh!
I can't change here.
So then they change. And so Spider-Man sees Superman do that. So he assumes Superman... And by the way, neither of them assume that Mary Jane and Lois Lane are dead.
Even though
they clearly were atomized.
They've been vaporized. I mean, it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
But I just saw Superman show up, and I'm Superman, so something's out of place. So
Yes.
maybe they're not dead.
Yeah, but
Right.
Spider-Man doesn't think that.
That's true.
No. So,
Or shouldn't.
Well,
I guess, and I'd be worried either way.
he says, like, Superman, what have you done with Mary Jane?
Oh.
And by the way, Mary Jane is not...
I
like-
vaporized her. You just saw me vaporize her with my heat vision.
Far out.
Far out. It's really you. Superman. Correct, Web Slinger. I've heard reports about you.
Oh, so they know of each other.
They've heard of each other,
Okay.
but they've never met. And the idea here being that, like, Superman atomized Lois and Mary Jane,
Right.
so that's why Spider-Man can be pissed at Superman.
Right.
But-
Makes
And,
sense.
But then he's like, far out, it's you!
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got a bone to pick with you.
That's right.
Yeah, but seriously, you shouldn't have killed those two people.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
I'm
he's
dating.
still like, well, it's Spider-Man. He's also saying,
What have you done with them? is
Yes,
really what
he says it later. But Superman doesn't trust Spider-Man because Spider-Man has been maligned in the news, and the cops are always after him. The cops are especially after
Superman
him.
believes everything he reads.
Pretty much. Well, he also writes all that stuff because he's a reporter. So
He's writing bashing pieces on
yeah, he's like, fuck
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
So it's Batman v Superman.
And then it's revealed that Lex Luthor impersonated Superman.
You just put on a Superman mask?
He put on a Superman
How did he
mask.
fly?
He has a little jetpack.
Oh.
And
Again, no red sun radiation.
no,
There.
But
You'll
that comes
fly.
into play immediately. So
Don't worry.
by the way, Lex Luthor didn't vaporize Lois Lane and Mary
course
Jane.
not.
He used a teleportation ray, which he fashioned behind the mask, so it looked like ray beams out of his eyes, and that transported Lois and Mary Jane to their hideout. Then, because they know that Spider-Man would be destroyed by Superman, they shoot him with red sun radiation.
Oh, okay.
So those two
Cool.
will kill each other.
Got it. Okay. So
All right,
now
I'm on
Superman's
board.
weakened. Yeah.
And he's like, I feel strong and powerful. You know what? And Superman at this point is arriving to, like, try and reason with him. He goes, you know, Spider-Man, I've been thinking since I'm so great and know everything. Perhaps we should team up. And Spider-Man's like, fuck you! Kapow! And fucking lays him out. And Superman's like, zounds! And of course, because they went through, like, several meetings where they're like, okay, everybody has to have a cool shot. Everybody has to get one punch in. No one can look better than the other. No one can be right or wrong. Like, they both have to be equally mistaken. And one of the, like, but Spider-Man can be a little dumb because he's more fallible.
No, well, he's a teenager. And
He's
Superman
not.
is a man.
He's a 20-something, but, like, he's a college student. But yeah, Superman's a man who's the best ever. And this is where you can see, like, oh my god, that's Neil fucking Adams. Like,
Yeah.
but I love this page because just Spider-Man punching Superman, and you're like, what? Seeing that out of context, you're like, no way.
Yeah. What is happening?
And then Doc Ock is like, hey, can I see that red radiation?
Yeah.
Why didn't we just shoot ourselves with that and beat the shit out of Superman?
Doc Ock is more reasonable than Lex Luthor in a big bad way in this book. Superman's like, that's enough out of you, Spider-Man. I'm gonna punch you so hard. And then he's like, wait, if I punch him really hard, I'll kill him. I better pull back. And it's like, Superman doesn't punch Spider-Man, but the force of his punch that he's about to give him is so hard that it blows Spider-Man across
the air that
just
was moving in front of his
just
fist.
the air knocks Spider-Man across the city like a hurricane. And you're like,
and kills him.
Okay.
Jesus fucking
Come
Christ!
on.
All right, Get your...
That's how strong Superman is.
He's so
Yeah,
great.
Superman, what the fuck
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, exactly. So
Well,
then
I guess he can move the Earth out of
he
orbit.
can. Yeah, that's the thing.
shit,
He's pre-Crisis
so-
Superman. He's legitimately able to move like moons, and then the radiation wears off.
Oh.
And
So then Spider-Man just has to stop.
well, he basically says like, "You better tell me where Mary Jane is," and he's punching him like over and over again. And then he's like, "How? Like what the fuck, man?"
Suddenly it's like punching iron.
Yeah, and Superman's like, "Okay, have you worn yourself out yet, kiddo?" And Spider-Man's like, "All right, you could slaughter me." So then they team up. You know, they're like, "Okay, let's team up."
To do what? They don't even know what they're supposed to do. Like,
No, they immediately
find the girls.
No, they immediately assume it's Lex Luthor.
okay.
And
we better
so-
go talk to Lex. He's usually behind.
Yeah,
these
so they
kinds
go
of
to like
things.
his hideout in this warehouse, and it's a death trap, and then they get.
He didn't like leave a clue.
No.
They didn't do anything
Nope.
clever. They're just
No,
like,
Superman's
better
like,
go
it's
check.
probably Lex Luthor. Let's go. So he does, and it is, and you know, Lex and Doc Ock are like, "Yep, we fucking stole the girls and eat it," and then they're like, "Damn it." So then they
And you'll never find them because
What?
we've killed them.
Oh, they don't tell them where they are.
Well, no, they don't tell them where they are, but like Spider-Man's like, "Wait a minute! Like they have a computer that they're using. I can use it to trace where they're
I'm
going."
young. I understand technology.
Yep, and then Superman's like,
Let me just get these punch cards and.
it basically is like that.
I've got
And,
a whole lot of tape to go through.
But then, you know, Lex Luthor's like, "Fuck that!" Like self-destruct, and the stuff explodes. But Superman uses his superness to reconstruct the computer exactly as it was, and then Spider-Man uses the computer.
wait, fucking what?
Wrong! It's super speed using my photographic memory, and I can
Oh, it's
reassemble the
photographic
computer
memory.
from the smallest circuit up in the time it takes you to blink an eye, fucker. Because legitimately, he just gives him this shit-eating grin, like, "Nyah!"
okay, the explosion that blew it up might have broken something, right? Like a chip
Yeah,
or
but
a
Superman
wire.
can fix him.
Ah, just fused there.
Yeah, you can use his heat vision to weld them.
Yeah.
So, okay, just jumping back to Final Crisis, then when Superman is able to build
The Miracle Machine.
Miracle Machine, they've already previously established that he has a photographic memory.
Although it is technically post-crisis, Grant Morrison didn't give a shit, so that is all Superman.
He got to keep that one.
Yeah.
Damn it.
They never said he didn't have his photographic memory anymore.
That's
so He
right.
still
And
has it.
occasionally he will use it,
Yeah.
but not like that. So then they go to Mount Kilimanjaro and fight a bunch of African warriors.
Oh, shit.
Then,
Superman juggles their warriors. it looks
yes, yeah. So then they use that radiation again, and they shoot it into one of the warriors, and they have to fight that
Wait,
warrior.
wait. So they're like, oh, you actually could do a feat of strength. Well,
No. Well,
we're changing the deal.
well, no.
Actually, you can't.
well, then Lex and Doc Ock are like, shoot another one of those guys with our red sun radiation thingy.
They're there?
Yeah, well, they have an underground base.
How did they get there so fast?
Well, they have a teleportation gun,
Oh,
but they didn't
sorry.
use it. They have a spaceship and stuff.
So why don't they just teleport Superman and Spider-Man?
Like to the
Away?
sun.
Away?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
They at
here?
least kill
No.
Spider-Man.
No time. We gotta move on with the story. So they fight this guy for no reason, and then they go to the fucking the base where they've like realized. Okay, the base.
Well,
is,
now they're in space, it looks like.
yeah, then they go to space. This book goes from the lowest oceans to the highest reaches of our atmosphere.
Okay.
Okay, so like.
That's how epic and
How
scope
fucking
it is.
nuts is this book?
It's very well because it's taking like the street level character of Spider-Man
1976.
and like the globe hopping adventures of Superman.
I'm trying to put them together.
Yeah.
Just cram them together.
Mm-hmm. Lex and Doc Ock move into the old Injustice Gang floating headquarters in space,
Oh.
and they take control of that
It's
satellite.
a lot like Skylab.
That is probably Skylab. No, that's like the satellite they were talking about, the weather satellite.
Oh.
They're controlling it using Lex Luthor's Plan B from earlier in the book, which he affixes to the Injustice Gang's floating headquarters. And then they use the satellite, and Lex is like, and what I'll do with it is I will use it to kill everybody, changing the weather. I'm going to create, typhoons and hurricanes and monsoons and shit.
Right.
And,
Okay, you don't take the world over by killing everybody.
oh, well,
'cause then
Lex
you don't
does,
have
because
any
fuck him.
everybody.
No, Lex is, a crazy asshole, and,
Oh, he's doing it too. He's creating the storm right now.
yeah, and they use sonics to knock out Superman for some reason, and they just cut the they just cut the oxygen levels to Spider-Man's spaceship, which is also a Injustice Gang spaceship, so that's why Lex has access to it. So then when they arrive, so then they just pull their bodies into the space station, and not kill them immediately so they can reveal their nefarious plan.
I need to back up for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's flying out in space.
Yep.
Lex Luthor hits him with this beam.
Yep,
and then
that's
says,
the sonic beam.
I used ultra-frequency sonics in that laser probe. Okay, it's space.
So there's
no sound.
sonics.
No.
Just use a regular laser.
No,
Yeah,
no,
just say
better in
you-
space.
you see, I shot a jet of air that had the sonics in it,
Yeah.
Right.
and then it
And
hit him.
it somehow didn't immediately expand in all directions when it entered space.
Yeah.
Well,
The funny
because
thing
it's
is-
a gun.
Lex Luthor is
I'm
a-
really smart.
Lex Luthor's a super genius and a mad scientist, so he should know that. Spider-Man is also a budding scientist. He should be like, what?
Yeah, but Superman's a dummy.
This is what happens when people who don't know science write books with super smart scientists in them. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright.
So then they...
Moving on.
But, like... And it's so funny, because all they had to do is just knock out Spider-Man and have Superman go, like, release my friend, or whatever. But they don't. And then they turn off the gravity.
Why don't they just hit Superman with the red sun laser
Yeah.
that they already established weakens him?
I know. They don't.
Okay.
So they turn off the gravity, which renders Spider-Man's webbing useless, because it's just like...
It goes everywhere, yeah. That's clever. That's
Wait,
good.
how does that not do anything?
What?
What?
I mean, it's still webbing. You turn off the gravity, he can still propel it and then, like, pull himself to things.
No, because, like, once he shoots it, there's no, like, there's
Well,
nowhere for it.
If he shoots it, he would go away from it in the opposite direction.
Which
for
he
one,
does.
So that would be a problem.
Doc Ock then uses his arms because he's like affixed to one spot. And he's like, ah. So like while they're floating around, he's like grabbing them and smashing them into each other. And then Superman's like, fuck that. He just grabs his arms and does like a little whip crack, and then rips out two of his arms, and breaks his glasses because he's a nerd.
And then he pours his lunch on him.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he gives him a wedgie.
Just
And
rips
then he dips
off
his head in a toilet and gives him a swirly.
Yeah, eventually he.
I don't care that they're attached to your spine.
And his glasses are floating around, and Doc Ock then has this emasculating scene where he's like, my glasses! I can't see without them! And then Lex is like, fear not, Octavius, I'll get your glasses! And he, like, jumps off the wall and, like, catches them in midair, but they're broken. And he's like, egads, I can't see without my glasses!
Oh my god. And then they're all broken.
And then they're all broken.
Oh
so,
no, they're broken.
So,
What, did you bring a spare?
no!
Every villain is supposed to bring a spare set of glasses when they go into space.
Why didn't you bring a spare? I'm killing everyone on Earth. No, there will be no optometrist for you, Dr. Octopus. Superman leaves. Because he's like, oh shit. Like
Well, there's a typhoon.
There's a typhoon
or
that's going to hit
tsunami,
the east.
I'm
A
sorry.
tsunami that's going to fuck up the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
So Superman goes to stop that, and Spider-Man's like, well, I have been proven legitimately throughout this book to be totally useless. So how the fuck am I going to stop you? And then Doc Ock uses one of his remaining arms to like grab Spider-Man, so now he's totally fucked.
Yeah.
And Lex
Lex
like
also burst through the airlock, which should
should kill everybody. But
but no.
no. So then
What the crap?
So then Lex is like, yeah, fuck you all. I'm killing everybody. And Spider-Man's like, you know, Doc, I know you don't want to kill everybody. You just want to be rich. And there's no point to being rich if there is no economy or people to spend money.
How is he going to make money from this scheme anyway?
Well, I think the idea was that that Doc
gonna
Ock was under the
blackmail
misapprehension that they were going to blackmail people for the Earth.
okay.
See, that's the worst idea ever. Don't blackmail them. Just kill Spider-Man and Superman, and then there's no superhero to stop you, because clearly these are the best superheroes.
Well, they're the best in this book, but
Well, every superhero's plan should start out with killing the heroes. But
yes,
it often
never
doesn't.
does. Superman uses like sound to knock down the waves. I think
Okay.
he's like, he either makes like a fucking, like he either spins or he like breaks the sound barrier next to the wave
Yeah,
or
it says
something.
he shatters the sound barrier. I mean, that
Okay.
at least makes some kind of sense.
Yeah.
They all ooh for Terry.
Yeah. So Superman saves the wave, and Spider-Man uses like reverse psychology on Dr. Octopus. So Doc Ock then helps Spider-Man fight Lex Luthor,
Oh.
and then Lex is so busy fighting Doc Ock that Spider-Man like fights Lex Luthor, and he's just a
punches him
jackass.
and-
So yeah,
He just punches him in the face and then he wins.
and that's it because it's a guy.
Yeah.
And then they both web up their respective villains and then leave.
What about the girls?
Oh, they
Well, the
also
girls
rescued
were
them.
saved. They stayed in the bubble, and Superman like went and got it and just pulled the bubble from
Yeah.
the spaceship.
Is it explained at all?
They don't show.
No, they
it.
show the bubble.
They show the bubble in
on Earth, so we
Yeah,
have to
so I
assume
guess
that he like
Okay.
carried it.
Got it.
So then they both basically say like, "That was crazy," and Superman's like, "You bet."
Later.
Yeah, and then Peter Parker and Mary Jane and Clark and Lois Lane go on a double date because they're connected through their publishing houses. Because like throughout the whole book, the guy who's in charge of the Daily Planet, which is owned by a TV station at the time, and J. Jonah Jameson just get wasted at a bar and complain about their like lousy employees, Peter Parker and Clark Kent.
So at no point does Superman just be like, oh, well, clearly you were Spider-Man because I have X-ray vision, and when I saw you were wearing a mask, I just looked
right through it.
He makes no attempt to explain that. No, he doesn't care. And it's funny because because Peter Parker doesn't know he's Clark Kent, but for some reason they go on a double date anyway.
Well, they went to all this trouble to set up the like connection between they meet at a
reporters convention more or less.
So like there's an exchange. Like Peter Parker saves Lois Lane.
Yeah, from falling.
And
Because
then,
Lois always puts herself in danger.
Yeah.
And there's this funny moment where like Pete kind of flirts with her, and she's like, "I'm too old for you, honey."
Yeah. Well, Mary Jane gets all jealous.
Yeah.
And like starts like dissing Lois, and she's like, "Whoa, pull the closet, MJ."
MJ
is a bit young for me.
MJ is a firecracker though. So yeah.
And at no point after the incredible ordeal of being
Do they both
teleported, no, being teleported away,
Yeah.
being kidnapped and put into space,
Yeah.
and then brought back, they're just like, all right, well now we can get to our double date because that's what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're like, well, fuck that. Like,
Well,
that
as
was
far
a crazy...
as our boyfriends know, everything's normal.
Exactly.
Does MJ doesn't know that he's Spider-Man, right?
She's always known.
Oh.
What? They used to live next door to each other, and one time she saw him crawl into Peter Parker's window and change.
Oh, wow.
And she kept it a secret the whole, for decades.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But
and then
Lois knows nothing about Clark
For a
being
while.
Superman.
Not yet.
Okay.
And, yeah, no, she reveals it to him later. She's like, I've always known. Like, I think he tries to...
Now,
like,
did they retcon that, or did they actually show, way back?
They didn't show well back. They retcon it.
Okay.
But she's like... And she kind of, is interested. Like, she's like, wow, you're kind of dangerous. And that's fun. But at the same time, she's also like, but I'm not going to marry you because that's really fucking dangerous.
Because
Right,
you're
right.
a superhero, and that's going to be problems later
Yeah.
on.
It's not gonna...
But then they do. Because Pete proposes to her 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
she turns him down twice?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
He's persistent.
He is persistent. He's weirdly persistent. He's persistent to the point where it's almost like Stan Lee just wanted them to be married so that it would match up with them being married in his newspaper strip that he was writing at the time. But then we got 20 years worth of really great stories out of you. But yeah, so that's it. There's a sequel to it in which Doctor Doom and the Parasite team up.
Okay.
Doctor Doom wants to siphon power from Superman and Spider-Man through the Parasite.
Wait, okay.
And the Parasite wants to betray Doctor Doom.
Okay.
And Superman and Spider-Man... Well, Superman saves the day and Spider-Man gets to watch. But this time Wonder Woman shows up and she gets kidnapped. And she's the trophy at the end.
All right, well, we're not talking about.
But we're not
Batman
talking about
versus
those.
Hulk.
Who cares? We'll do that another time, maybe. The one that's really worth doing is the Teen Titans X-Men crossover, which is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was like they got the memo to do something cool and real.
Well, that crossover actually makes sense.
Yeah, it's two
For one.
teen teams.
Yeah.
Who were also by the way, they didn't all come out in 1976. The Spider-Man Superman crossover was in 76. Joker and Hulk came out maybe a year or so later. Then the sequel with Superman and Spider-Man was 81. And then the Teen Titans and X-Men were 82, 83. It was after the Dark Phoenix saga.
Is their story called Apocalypse Now?
Yeah. Because
That's cool.
fucking Darkseid resurrects the Dark Phoenix.
Oh shit.
It's fucking really cool.
That's awesome. They actually use
Continuity and shit, but then they completely disregard it to end the story. They're like, this is the fucking end! And it's this is... and it's written by Chris Claremont, who's yeah, I got this shit. It's fucking spectacular. But we're not doing that one today. We're just doing the first epic superhero crossover of all time, which set the stage for many more.
It looks cool.
It looks cool.
It looks cool.
Silly.
What happens is dumb.
Really, and it's so dated. The problem is it's
Lame.
so dated.
Yeah.
There's nothing timeless about it except for the art.
They took our girls. We'd better go get them
And
back.
Spider-Man can't even admit that it's his girlfriend
Yeah.
because it botches his secret identity.
Wait a second. How did they steal these two girls then?
They were talking to each other at the time. They were just
right
going to
next to each
steal
other.
Lois. but they
MJ
happened
to be there.
For
no reason.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I steal Lois all the time, and Superman always
that's
shows
kind of
up.
my go-to move.
So
Yeah.
I figure it works. And Doc's like, all right, well.
Yeah, Ock's like, well, and we'll just have a spare Redhead, I guess. That sounds cool.
Oh, look, Spider-Man's pissed.
Oh, shit. Well,
I wonder if I'll put 2 and 2 together.
Nope, I'm dumb. My glasses! That fucking double-page spread of Superman and Spider-Man, though, like, I was like, this is really cool.
It's a cool picture.
It's a cool picture, but you're like, but your knowledge will be like, there's no fucking way that this can continue.
It's a great picture. If someone would go in and erase all the words and rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah,
You
but
can't update, like, what's happening, though.
no, the thing that the dialogue for me is okay, but that's because I read comics that came out back then.
Yeah, so it's
and I'm like,
it's
yeah,
all
it's
like this. Yeah.
like Spider-Man calls people Buster. You know, like there's no that far out groovy. They say things like that. This image, by the way, the cover of this book, which is timeless, which is this, went through a couple of phases where they're like, okay, like how do we show because this is the first time we're gonna see those two fight, and it's so epic that Alex Ross is like, look at this fucking image, and he painted it, and he actually wound up using it in Secret Wars, like when in one of the images of like the universe shattering, he like took like this shot like of just Spider-Man and like maybe Superman's foot, and you're like, oh, did that happen? No. Man, I was so enamored with the idea of it. The concept of it is the whole story. The story of like Stan and Carmine teaming up. The story of like how they decide which superheroes to use and like which artists to pick and like the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
all that shit
way
is
more
way more interesting than the actual comic.
Yeah.
Like, they should do a fucking documentary about just like about how this happened and like how it continued to happen, like all the way up to like 1996 when they just stopped doing it.
That is cool.
Carmine still alive?
No. Superman versus Spider-Man. I don't want to call this episode crossover classics,
No.
but it's a chapter from it. Superman gets top billing throughout the whole book. In both story and in the title.
Yeah.
That's because he does most of the work.
I mean, that's fair.
It's all the heavy lifting, and Spider-Man maybe does a couple things.
Spider-Man talks down Doc Ock.
In the sequel...
Well, Spider-Man gets his ass handed to him a bit.
In the sequel, Doctor Doom covers Superman in like kryptonite flakes or something.
Oh.
And incapacitates him. And Spider-Man is also like shackled, but he shoots his web to cover Superman and then pulls the dust off of him, and thus healing Superman so he can save the day. That he does more in that than he does in the other one.
That's cool.
The art is not as good, though.
I was a lint roller.
Yeah. Thanks.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Truly the greatest hero of Marvel.
I'm amazing.
Anyway, we'll see you guys next week with an all-new episode of Back Issues. Thanks so much for watching. And hey, if you want to pick up the crossover classics, it's out of print and you can't have it.
Wow!
And it never will be back in print. They're never going to do this again. You know why?
Go to some cons.
You know why? Who gets half? I could get the bigger half. Fuck you! And just do it again. There are multiple volumes, by the way, this Crossover Classics, which they didn't think they were going to do more. Then they were like, Crossover Classics 2, with all the shit nobody likes. And there's a couple of volumes you can be like, oh.
They're all classics.
Yeah, no. Not all of them. You know how long it took me? Every time we go to the stash, they had it. And I was like, not today. Next time, baby. And then the last time I went, I'm going to get it. So fucking person bought it already.
I was going to say bidding starts at $1,500.
No,
You're like, no.
Because I'll still have to buy this. Yeah, all right, $1,500, you can have it. Like, no, I'm not going to take your money. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Ben.
Ta-da. Up, and away. No. Webs away!
Excelsior.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot myself with a red radiation gun.
And then what are you going to do?
Get away from this story. I'm going to turn the world back in time before this was written.
God.
And I'm going to shake them and be like, just do it better.
Try harder.
What the fuck is
and
that?
And leave us not forget our villainous villains.
And leave us not forget our villainous villains? Is that what they mean? And leave us not?
Yeah, like, let's not leave this out. Let's not forget our villainous villains.
And let us not forget
our but they're being more flowery with their language. They're being
and leave us not this.
Yeah, they're punctuating it by being like just ridiculous. A Duel of Titans is the chapter's name of the next one. Like,
yeah, look at all of the incredible wording around all of this.
They're really
incredible.
I've literally never seen that before. And leave us not.
No, remember, leave us not into temptation. Oh, that's lead.
That's lead.
That's lead.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Honestly, I think
I can't think of an example.
I don't think that it's accurate. in grammar, but I think that it's more like
people
who
said that
cares?
once, maybe. I don't know.
It's more like they're just. I think that feels like a Stan Lee line to me.
Yeah. It's
But-
like, I always thought it was leave. Let's just throw that in there.
Yeah. That said, I don't think that Stan nor Carmine edited these books.
If it was 2, and Leave Us Not 2 are villainous villains, that would make sense.
Why?
No.
Like,
No.
leave us not to their devices.
Leave? Oh.
Yeah.
Leave us not to.
Yeah, but it wouldn't mean the same thing that they're trying to
Not
say.
at all.
Yeah.